Welcome back, Clockhouse, to How Winston Came Home for Christmas. Chapter 23. Follow that sleigh. Everything had happened very quickly. Winston and his siblings clambered down from the desk and raced from the room. Down the corridor they went, past the tea break room, back through the silent workshop, down the hall, and with a squeeze and a wiggle, out under the door and into the snow-covered courtyard outside. It was really terribly cold out there now, especially after being in the cosy warmth of Father Christmas's house. It was also rather difficult to see anything through the thickly falling snow. "Where's this reindeer friend of yours?" asked Walter, shivering. Before Winston could answer, "Listen," came bounding around the corner from the stable block. "Oh, there you are," he cried. "Oh, there are lots of you now." He held out a hoof and politely shook paws with Winston's family. "I wonder where'd you'd gone," he continued. "There wasn't a single reindeer in the stables at all. There were lots of nice, warm-looking beds, an entire wall full of medals from the reindeer games, but no reindeer." Rapidly and in very squeaky, excitable voices, Winston and his brothers and sisters explained everything to Lytton. That it was actually Christmas Eve, right this very moment, that Winston's mum had gone to find him and how desperately needed to catch up with their sister, who was on Father Christmas's sleigh. As he listened, Lytton's eyes widened and his eyebrows waggled. The clouds of warm breath billowing from his nose into the frosty, frozen air came in short, excited bursts so he looked like a steam train, huffing and puffing. "Do you think you can do it?" asked Winston hurriedly. You aren't too tired from flying earlier." Lytton struck a particularly gallant and brave-looking pose. "I laugh in the face of tiredness," he cried. Then he bowed magnificently to allow Wilfred and Walter and William and Winnabelle and Wilhelmina and Winston to climb onto his back. "Are you sure about this?" whispered Wilfred nervously. "Not really," said Winston, matter-of-factly, "but with the adventures you sometimes just need to get cracking and believe everything will work out okay." Then he leaned forward and cried, "Follow that sleigh!" Lytton's fur started to glisten once again with his magical, shimmering glow. The mice held on tightly as he began to gallop. Faster and faster across the snow he went, his hoofs beating like a drum against the ice, and then, with a terrific leap, he took to the air. It was much smoother this time. Lytton swooped and climbed and soared through the sky like he was meant to be there. He burst through the snow clouds and into the vast velvet sky beyond. The North Star shone behind them, and in the distance the moon glowed like an enormous golden chocolate coin. The sleigh could be anywhere. Winnabelle squeaked loudly into Winston's ear above the noise of the roaring wind. "How will we ever find it?" Winston grinned. "Don't worry," he cried. "Lytton's nose." "Lytton's nose what?" said Wilfred. "No," said Winston, "his nose. I think it might be leading us to the sleigh." And indeed it was. It had started to glow bright, hollyberry red again, and soon it was in charge of Lytton's entirely. They swooped back under the snow clouds and raced through the blizzard. Black churning seas and steep cliffs whipped by beneath them. Then tall frozen mountains and towns and cities, fields and gardens, palaces and apartment blocks. And then Winston spotted something in the distance. "Look," he cried, "over there." "Can you reach it?" called Winston to Lytton. Lytton nodded. He'd try his very best. Winston was depending on him. It was hard work, though. The sleigh had an entire herd of fully grown, prize-winning reindeers put in it, and they were going at a simply astonishing pelt. Poor Lytton's small legs had to work double, no, triple speed to even attempt to catch up. But he did it. Before long, he was cantering through the sky in line with the overflowing sacks in the back of the sleigh. As they drew close, Winston and his siblings started to shout, "Winsome, Winsome!" And a moment later, a small mousy face popped up from within a pile of parcels. She waved wildly and grinned with delight when she spotted Winston, but the blizzards blowing about them had intensified. The snow was falling in thick, heavy sheets, and the wind was blowing Lytton this way and that, and he tried to keep up with the speed of the sleigh. "I think I'll have to slow down," panted Lytton. He looked and sounded exhausted. "You'll have to jump onto the sleigh." Winston nodded, but his siblings squeaked in alarm. Far below them, the ground was racing by a tremendous speed. The buildings and trees looked, even teenier than the furniture of a doll's house. But Winston was a mouse of great determination. Extremely carefully, he pulled himself up to standing. The wind swelled around him, and he wobbled. His ears flapped, and his towel and scarf whipped about, snapping against the air. He helped his brothers and sisters to their feet. They all held tightly to each other's paws. "Trust me," Winston whispered, and they all nodded. Then, as the sleigh sailed past the bright December moon, the mice took deep breaths, closed their eyes, and jumped. And that's the end of chapter 23. I would like to wish a whole of Clockhouse an amazing Christmas. Bye bye, guys.